Hello, Teacher Lindsay here. Today we're going to talk about gestures, so how to give instructions and feedback using non-verbal cues. These are also great for decreasing your teacher talk time and getting your students really engaged with your lesson. Okay, gesture 1 is louder please, and it looks like this. So by simply cupping your ear and frowning, you're telling your student that you can't hear them. And then with the other hand, you're telling them to increase their volume so that everybody can hear what they're saying. This is really great for building confidence in young learners who are not quite sure about speaking in English. It's really encouraging them to speak loudly and clearly. Gesture 2 is called Are You Sure? And it goes something like this. So by tilting the head and frowning with your mouth, you're encouraging the student to reflect on their answer. So you might want them to review it or correct it. It shouldn't always just be used when it's a wrong answer. Gesture number 3 is work together. Simple. So by interlinking your fingers, you're indicating to the students they need to work in small groups or with their table, and also encouraging them to do teamwork, okay? Respecting each other and working together. Gesture number 4 is your turn. You can do this with an open palm, or you can use a nod of the head. Depends on the country you're teaching in. Some countries really don't like it when you point. You might need to do it with your elbow. Otherwise, just stick to the head nod and you'll be fine. This is great if you're drilling pronunciation around the class, or you want to choose a student to answer a specific question. Gesture number 5 is listen. Now, you really want to encourage good listening habits with your learners early on. This will also help them not just hear the modelling or the examples that you're giving them, but also to be respectful in their interactions with the other students around them. Gesture number 6 is say or read aloud. And you do this by pointing at your mouth. For example, if you are doing a reading lesson and you need to hear all of the children, point to your mouth to make sure that they understand that they're not reading silently in their heads, but they actually need to speak out loud. Gesture number 7 is great for breaking down instructions so they're clear and easy to follow. And this one is first, second, third. You can show it with your fingers, and this visual cue will help your learners understand the steps they need to do in order to complete the task. Gesture number 8 is giving praise. So instead of saying well done to the class and diverting the attention of everyone back to you, you can use something like this to give praise non-verbally. For example, they're some of my favorites, but obviously, you'll have your own teaching style, so do whatever feels right for you. It also depends on the age of your learner. You don't want to patronize some adult learners by clapping like that. So yeah, it's your call. Just do what suits your learning environment. Gesture number 9 is keep going. This is really important if you need to motivate your learners during a challenging task. I do this one by simply rotating my hands in front of my chest. The keep going gesture is really useful if you've asked a student a question and maybe they've given half the answer, or they're nearly there, but they just need a bit more time to collect their thoughts. This is a great way of saying, you've got this, I'm going to give you more time to find the answer. Gesture number 10 comes with a caveat. And the reason for this is because it's slightly negative body language. So you really need to have good rapport with your learners in order to do this one. Okay, this one is called the almost, and it looks something like this. So by scrunching up your features and rocking your head from side to side, you're showing the learner that they're nearly there. You can even do this with your hands. They're nearly there, but they're not quite there. And the reason it's important to know your learners before you do this one is because it requires them to self-correct. Now, not all young learners will be able to do this, so you need to make sure that they are confident enough, they're not going to become demotivated if you pull a funny face at them, and that they actually have the skills to recognize their mistake and fix it. Of course, you can always invite other students to help with peer review. You've got to follow this up with positive reinforcement. So, keep going, well done, you've got this. Gesture number 11 is really useful for classroom management, and it is stand up and sit down. And just by using your hands like this, stand up and sit down, you are directing your students on where to move. It's really helpful, it'll save your voice, and once you've got your learners used to these cues, you can move them around without even talking. It's great. Gesture 12 is called Think and Discuss. This is a really good one for getting students to focus really hard on a question or a task and then share their ideas with others around them. So it looks like this. Think and discuss. Like you're mixing some cake mix. So think and discuss. This is really useful if you're going to put your learners into breakout groups or if you want them to brainstorm before a writing task. Gesture 13 is for questions. Now, young learners need help recognizing the question words. So whenever we encounter one, such as when or why or how or where, I pull a really exaggerated gesture, which looks like this. So every time we meet a question, and this encourages your learner to not only notice that question, so whether it's the punctuation or the question word itself, but it also prompts them to respond. So when there's a question, they need to give an answer. Gesture 14 is one of my favorites, and it's called empty hands. So by raising the hands, doing a twinkle and a sound effect, I am telling my students that I want them to have nothing in their hands. So no pencils, nothing from the stationery box that's distracting them. And by having empty hands, it frees up their focus for following along if we're reading, and I want to see them following with their finger. Or maybe I just need them to concentrate and I can see them getting distracted by other things. So empty hands is a really good one for refocusing. Gesture 15 is eyes up and eyes down. And this is a great one for directing your students' attention. So if they've been getting on with an activity and then you need their focus, maybe to give them feedback or to set the next task, eyes up tells them to look at you or at the board. Then, once you've set the task and you need them to focus on finishing it, whether it's workstations, reading a book, doing a worksheet, eyes down, their focus is back on the work in front of them. Gesture 16 is a funny one. You might remember it from school, I certainly do. And this is a way of giving your learners a visual cue to ask them, are you on task? And it looks like this. This one does require a bit of brow dexterity because you need to raise one brow, pout, put your hand on your hip for the full effect. And it basically tells them, I'm watching you, I'm not sure you are doing what I've asked you. I'd like you to get back on task now. It's a really great way of not interrupting everyone else when they're working, but letting that student know that you're watching them and your expectation of what they should be doing. It's subtle, but it's really effective. So that's all the gestures. I hope you've enjoyed learning them. If you use any in your classroom, I'd love to hear them.